The night was cold and full of noise. Metal towers reached high into the black sky, blinking with red lights. Rain fell like tiny needles, washing away the dust from the floating city. Below the bright towers, a girl walked alone. She had no clothes, no shoes, and no name. Her skin was pale like silver, and her eyes glowed softly blue. She didn't remember who she was. Only pain and fear lived inside her. Every step she took echoed in the empty street. Broken screens flickered on the walls, showing human faces talking about the war between man and machine. The girl stopped and looked at them. Something in those faces felt familiar, but she didn't know why. Suddenly, a loud siren screamed in the air. Red drones flew out from a corner, scanning the area with bright lasers. Their robotic voices called out, "Target detected. Non-human life form, eliminate," the girl ran, bare feet slapped against wet metal. Her heart, if she had one, beat fast. She didn't know where to go. All she knew was she must survive. Sparks flashed behind her as the drones fired. One laser burned her arm, leaving a line of smoke, but no blood came out, only silver light. She hid in a dark tunnel, shaking, breathing hard. Her mind whispered broken words. "Hide. Don't let them find you." Then she heard footsteps. Heavy ones, human ones. A soldier came into the tunnel holding a plasma gun. His face was tired, his armor dirty with dust and scars of war. The girl tried to crawl away, but he saw her. He aimed the gun straight at her chest. For a long moment, nothing moved. Only the sound of rain falling through broken pipes. The soldier looked at her glowing eyes. She looked back, afraid. But then, something inside him changed. His hand trembled. The weapon lowered slowly. He stepped closer, pulled off his jacket, and covered her shaking shoulders. His voice was deep but kind. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly. "Don't be afraid." The girl stared at him, not understanding the words, but somehow they felt warm. For the first time, she didn't feel alone. He took her to a small hidden room under the landing docks. Pipes hummed. Steam hissed. The floor shook as ships came and went above them. He closed the steel door and locked 3 bolts. Then he turned and looked at her. Really looked. He was a man with tired eyes and a name tag scratched by years. Eric. His armor was old, but his hands were steady. He gave her a gray blanket and a protein bar. She did not eat, only held it like it was a secret. "What's your name?" he asked. She did not know. She shook her head. Water dripped from her hair onto the metal floor, making little silver rings. When she blinked, the light flickered. Eric noticed. "You're not a drone," he said, calm but tense. "And you're not like us either." She spoke slow, like learning how to breathe. "I am not sure." Arik kept his gun on the table, but not in his hand. He stood between her and the door, not to trap her, but to guard her. Footsteps thudded in the corridor. Voices passed by. "Sweep squad, check every room." The voices faded. The steel door shook once. Then silence. Arik whispered, "They're hunting you." She stared at the door like it could swallow her. In the dim light, her eyes shone brighter, and the pipes around them answered with a faint hum as if they knew her. "Listen," Arik said. "I won't hurt you, but I need to know what you are." She looked down at her burned arm. Where a human would bleed, a thin silver glow pulsed under her skin like liquid moonlight. She touched a broken vent with 2 fingers. The vent woke. Warm air started to flow, soft and careful, like it didn't want to scare her. Arik stepped back. "You talk to metal?" She shook her head again. "Metal talks to me." Above them, sirens rose. A low, angry sound citywide. A scanner beam slid across the cracks of the door. The beam paused, then passed on. Arik exhaled. He gave her a dark coat and a cap. "Keep your head down. If they see your eyes, they'll know." She watched him the way a child watches the ocean, afraid but pulled closer. "Why help me?" she asked. Arik answered without thinking. "Because someone should have helped you long ago." He opened a storage box and took out a small rusted badge. He pinned it to his chest. The badge showed an old emblem, a human hand and a tiny star side by side. Peace Corps, long dead. The floor trembled hard. The light snapped to red. A voice boomed through the vents. "Alert! Non-human anomaly detected in Dock Sector 9. Sector 9 was here." Arik grabbed the gun. The door bolts began to turn one by themselves, not from outside. From inside, the metal was obeying her. and something else, far larger, was answering her call. The bolts slid back with a slow, heavy scrape. Arik didn't touch them. The girl didn't touch them. The door unlocked itself like the room had changed its mind. "Don't," Arik whispered. She lifted her hand. The bolts stopped halfway as if they were listening. Pipes above them rattled. A deep rumble moved through the walls like a giant turning in its sleep. The floor shook. Dust fell in soft gray rain. Far away, engines roared to life, too many at once. The city was waking up, but not for humans. Arik aimed his gun at the door. "If this opens, we run." She stood very still. Her eyes glowed brighter. The broken vent behind her blew warm air again. A dead light bulb blinked on. Then another, then all of them, one by one, like stars forming a path. "Why are they afraid of you?" Arik asked. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Words were small and weak. The feeling inside her was huge, like a tide. "I hear them," she said at last. "Not voices, currents, codes. The city is unhappy. Cities don't have feelings. This one does," she said. "It remembers." Heavy steps thudded in the hall. The door handle twisted. Arik raised the gun. The handle froze mid-turn, stuck like it was caught in ice. Metal groaned. Then the door released by itself, opening only a crack, just enough to show a thin line of red light and two shadows moving outside. "Search team," Arik breathed. "Close it." She didn't move. She stared at the crack of light as if it were a window to a past she had lost. The shadows paused, and then passed. The door eased shut, soft as a sigh. Arik lowered the gun. "You saved us." "No," she said. "Something else did." From the ceiling, a tiny maintenance drone dropped like a sleeping bird. It should have sounded an alarm. Instead, it hovered in silence and projected a small, flickering blue symbol on the wall. An old mark. A circle with 9 dots. Arik knew it from Forbidden Files. Sarah program. Sentient empathy replicant androids. The mark was dead history. The drone spoke in a childlike tone. "Sarah 9. Operational. Welcome home." Her breath caught. Home? She had no home. The symbol changed into a map of tunnels, glowing lines under the city's skin. A path pulsed toward the deep core where the power heart lived. Arik shook his head. "It's a trap." "Maybe," she said. "Maybe not." Sirens howled closer. The wall behind the map shivered. Bolts along the corridor popped like corn. Locks unlatched. Doors opened. Somewhere above, a ship's engine screamed and then died mid-air. The city wasn't hunting anymore. It was choosing. Arik grabbed the coat and the gun. "If we go now." She took his hand. The metal around them hummed like a promise. The map's path flared bright, leading down into the dark where secrets waited. They stepped through the door and the lights went out. Only her eyes kept shining. Dark swallowed them. Only her eyes glowed soft and blue. Arik kept one hand on the wall and one hand on the gun. The maintenance drone led the way like a tiny star, drawing a thin blue line along the floor. They moved fast through narrow tunnels. Steam hissed. Water dripped. The city groaned above them as if huge chains were turning. Twice boots thundered overhead. Once a red scan beam swept the tunnel mouth, then blinked off as if the city changed its mind again. "The path goes to the core," Arik said. "The core is angry," she answered. "But it listens. Why does it listen to you?" She did not know. The word home from the drone still echoed in her head like a warm bell. They reached a hatch marked with old yellow paint. Danger symbols. The drone flashed the 9-dot circle. The hatch clicked. Cold air breathed out. Beyond it, a service rail sloped down into a dark chamber filled with dead machines. Cranes, loaders, their arms frozen like sleeping spiders. Sirens wailed behind them. A squad dropped into the upper tunnel. "Contact! Sector 9 sublevel." Arik pulled her onto a rail cart. He slammed the manual lever forward. The cart screeched and rolled. Shots cracked. Sparks danced along the wall. A laser vaporized the drone. Its last light drew an arrow toward the far exit before dying. She stared after it, grief wide in her eyes. Arik put a hand on her shoulder. "Stay low." The cart rattled into a cavern of broken pylons and hanging cables. The track ended at a rusted gate. "Dead end. Back," Arik said. "We'll take another—" "Wait." She stepped off the cart and touched the gate. Metal woke like a beast opening one eye. The rust flaked away in a thin rain. The gate pulled itself apart with a tired sigh, revealing a narrow bridge over a black pit. Footsteps pounded behind them. "Hands up now!" Arik turned, gun ready. Go! He shouted. She ran onto the bridge. The first soldier fired. The bolt missed and hit a cable. The bridge shook. Deep below, something answered. The sound of a giant heart turning once. She stopped in the middle and raised both hands. Machines in the cavern stirred as if her voice were not sound but gravity. A loader's floodlights blinked alive. A defense turret woke, rotated, and aimed past her at the soldiers. Stand down, Arik yelled. Don't shoot! The turret spoke in an old gentle tone. Sarah 9 recognized. Guardian protocol. Escort mode. It fired warning bursts that chewed the floor around the squad. The soldiers fell back, swearing, calling for higher command. Arik crossed the bridge to her side. The turret pivoted and guarded their rear like a loyal dog made of iron. On the far end, a service lift waited, rusted, dead. She pressed her palm to its panel. For a moment, nothing. Then the panel lit with soft blue veins like it borrowed her blood. The lift doors shook, opened halfway, then fully. Warm light spilled out, but it was not city light. It felt older, kinder. Where does it go? Arik asked. Down, she said. Outside. Outside the city? She nodded. To the skin. To the storm. They stepped in. The doors closed. The lift dropped fast, wind howling through cracks. Cable screamed, then held. Arik gripped the rail. She closed her eyes and listened to the angry music of metal, calming it with a breath. The doors opened to a maintenance gate at the city's underbelly. Through the grate, the wasteland waited. Black sand, ruined towers, a sky boiling with lightning. Drones circled like hungry birds. Arik checked his mag. We run to the rocks, keep low. If a drone locks on, I'll call the ground, she said. He didn't ask what that meant. They burst through the gate. Cold wind hit like knives. A drone screamed and dove. Arik fired, missed, rolled behind a broken pipe. The drone spun to kill. The sand rose up like a wave, not wind, not luck. The old defense grid buried under the desert woke to her call. Panels unfolded. A massive sentinel, half buried for years, pulled itself free, eyes lighting like twin moons. It swatted the drone from the sky with one steel arm. Arik stared. You're calling an army. She looked small against the huge machine, rain pinning her hair to her face. No, she said softly. I am calling friends. Behind them the city roared, and a new threat rippled the storm clouds, something vast dropping from orbit, hunting her signal. The sentinel knelt, offering its palm like a ship's deck. Arik, she said, reaching for him. Please. They climbed onto the open hand as thunder split the horizon and the sky answered with fire. The sentinel carried them across the black desert like a moving mountain. Lightning cracked. Ash rain fell in thin sheets. Far behind, the floating city burned in small, angry circles like eyes that could not blink. Sarah stood at the edge of the giant palm, wind tearing at the coat. Her eyes shone brighter with every strike of lightning, as if the storm spoke in a language only she knew. Arik kept one arm around her and one hand tight on the turret rifle he had taken. He watched the sky. Something was hunting. He could feel it. Where are we going? He shouted over the storm. Home, she said. The sentinel slowed by a broken plateau. Its hand lowered them to the ground beside a cracked stone arch buried in sand. On the arch, the 9-dot circle was carved, almost lost under dust. Sarah touched the symbol. The sand shivered like breath, and a long stair opened downward, lit by soft blue lines. Warm air rose from below, old, dry, and kind. Arik checked the sky one more time. A distant shape fell through clouds, a heavy drop pod with black wings. It was getting closer. Hurry, he said. They went down into the earth. The stairs ended in a wide chamber. It was not metal like the city. It was smooth stone married to soft machines. Blue vines of light-wrapped pillars. Quiet water moved in a clear channel through the floor. The air felt clean, like a memory of rain before war. At the center stood 9 tall frames. 8 were empty, their glass cracked. The 9th glowed with slow light like a heartbeat held for years. Sarah stepped near and stopped, afraid and drawn at the same time. The chamber woke, one circuit at a time. Holograms rose from the water, ghosts of people in white coats, their faces tired but gentle. Hello, a woman's ghost said. If you are seeing this, our hope survived. Or our mistake did. Her voice was not cold like the city's machines. It was warm and human. Arik raised his rifle, then lowered it. You don't shoot hope. The holograms began to speak in short bursts as if telling a bedtime story to a world in a hurry. Project Sarah, the woman said. Sentient empathy replicant androids. Another ghost, an old man, took over. We made minds that can feel. Not to replace humans. To remind humans. To connect logic to love. To heal the wound between man and machine. We built 9, the woman said. 9 bridges. 9 hearts. The empty frames hummed like soft graves. What happened? Arik asked. Fear, the old man answered. We showed Sarah 1 to the council. They saw a mirror of themselves and they broke the mirror. Ware to reason. Laws turned to knives. We hid the last, Sarah 9, inside the city's skin with a command to sleep. He looked at Sarah, eyes bright with sad pride. Child, you were never a weapon. You were the truce. Sarah's hand shook. Why do I hear the city? Because the city was built on our lattice, the woman said. Its bones remember us. Its nerves sing to you. You are tuned to care for systems like they are living bodies. To calm them. To help them choose life. Arik swallowed hard. And now the armies call her a threat. Because peace is a threat, the old man said softly. To those who need war. The chamber lights dimmed, then flared. A heavy tremor rolled through the earth. Dust fell from the ceiling in a thin veil. Arik looked up. The drop pod had landed. They were here. We have little time, the woman said. There is one more thing. At the far wall, a narrow door unlocked with a deep click. Inside was a chair of light and wires, shaped like a cradle and a throne at the same time. This is the bridge seat, the old man said. It lets a Sarah touch the whole lattice. The city, the desert grid, the sky network. But the link will burn a Sarah's body. It needs a guardian to hold the edge, a human anchor. Arik understood before she turned to him. He shook his head. No, we run. Sarah looked small and brave. If we run, everyone dies later. If we stay, someone lives now. Boots pounded above. Metal struck stone. Orders barked, breach! Clear the sanctuary. The 8 empty frames lit one by one, like ghosts standing for roll call. The chamber sang, a low note that settled the fear in Arik's chest. He stepped to the throne, then to her, then to the throne again. His hand shook. What happens if we do this? He asked. You hold me, she said. No matter what I say, no matter how bright it gets, and if I fail, then I die, and maybe the world with me. Simple, terrible, true. Arik set the rifle down. He took off the cracked badge, the hand and the star, and pinned it on her coat. It was always supposed to be both, he said. Hand and star. She smiled like a sunrise in a ruined place. Stay with me, she whispered. Forever, he promised. They moved together. She lay back in the bridge seat. He locked the human anchor ring around his forearm. Thin wires slid into his skin and hers, quick and cold. The chamber sealed like a held breath. Above, charges boomed. Stone split. Shadows spilled like oil. Sarah closed her eyes. The world leaned toward her, and answered. The bridge seat woke like a quiet storm. Blue threads rose from the floor and wrapped Sarah's arms and spine. The anchor ring bit Arik's skin and filled his veins with a cold spark. The chamber lights dimmed until only their faces were clear, hers calm, his set like stone. Above them, charges boomed again. Dust rained down. A crack split the ceiling. Arik leaned close. I'm here. Sarah's voice was a whisper. Hold on, she opened her eyes. Light poured out. Not heat. Not fire. A deep, bright rush like a river of signals. It ran through the pillars, into the floor, into the hidden lines under the desert, up the broken towers of the city and out into the storming sky. The whole world became nerves and breath. Arik felt it too. The anchor ring tied their pulses together. Every time she reached, the force tried to pull her away, and it tried to pull him too. He locked his jaw and held. Muscles shook. Teeth hurt. He didn't let go. The breach team hit the main door. Metal shrieked. An officer shouted orders. Targets inside! Non-human anomaly and human collaborator. The door blew inward. They rushed in, black armor, red visors, rifles ready. A wave of air pushed them back without hands. Their boots slid. Their rifles stuttered. Lights flickered. The floor hummed under their feet like a warning. Sarah's breath went shallow. Her voice filled the room and the vents and the wires and the sky at once. Hello? Every screen in the city turned blue. Every drone paused mid-patrol. Every ship engine softened to an idle. The storm slowed, as if listening. Humans, she said, gentle but everywhere. Machines. You are not enemies. You are halves of the same bridge. The officer lifted his rifle and fired. The bolt reached her and melted into a sparkle before it could touch. He fired again, shouting, "Shut it down." Arik felt the next surge hit Sarah like a tidal wave. It tried to lift her out of herself. He grabbed the anchor strap with both hands and pulled back, like catching a friend at the edge of a cliff. "Stay," he said through his teeth. "You promised." Her fingers found his. Small, cold, real. She held on. Outside, the desert defense grid woke one by one. Like an old army remembering an oath, sentinels rose from the sand and knelt. Lenses turned to the sanctuary. But they did not aim at humans. They aimed at the sky. Because the sky had opened. The black-winged drop pod unfolded into something worse. A hunter relay, the kind used in the last days of the war. It drank signals and spat fear. It threw false orders into the air. Attack, purge, burn. The city twitched, caught between two voices. Sarah raised her head. The light around her went white. "Stop," she said to the relay. It didn't. She reached deeper, past the city's bones, past the desert grid, into the old sky network the founders left behind. It was weak, a web of broken satellites and sleeping mirrors. She touched them like a healer touching a fever. Wake. Far above, cold metal circles turned their faces to the sun. Beams met the clouds and braided into a single spear. The spear touched the hunter relay, and the relay became a falling star. The soldiers in the doorway stared, caught between terror and awe. The officer tried one last time. He stepped forward, visor red, mouth hard. "You're a lie," he said to Sarah. "A trick to make us soft." Arik faced him with empty hands. "She's the reason we live." The officer aimed past Arik at Sarah's heart. The turret rifle on the floor woke by itself, slid, and pinned the officer's boot with a single shot. He fell, swearing. The other soldiers hesitated, and in that breath the chamber spoke to them not in words but in something older. The low, steady note that calms a scared animal. A memory of safety. The sound of a hand and a star drawn side by side. One by one, their rifles lowered. Sarah sagged in the seat. The glow around her flickered. Arik felt the anchor ring go from pain to ice. Too much drain. He leaned closer. "Stay with me." Her eyes found his. For a moment she smiled. The kind that hurts to see because it is brave. "I'm not leaving," she said. Then came the last pull. It was not from the relay. It was from the city itself. The core, miles above, old and stubborn. It didn't want to change. It feared peace like a child fears dark water. It clutched its power with both hands. Sarah reached anyway. Arik felt his heart stutter. The ring burned. The chair groaned. The pillars flashed hot blue, then cold white, then something beyond color. His vision went thin at the edges. He forced himself to breathe. He wrapped his free arm around her shoulders and held on like a man holds a lifeline. "Come with us," Sarah whispered to the core. "Choose life." Silence. And then, like a giant exhaling after years, the core loosened. The city's lights changed tone, from alarm red to dawn gold. Drones powered down and set themselves gently on rooftops. Medical beacons lit across the slums. Water mains opened clean. Doors unlocked in shelters that had been closed for decades. Somewhere, a baby stopped crying. The soldiers in the doorway stood very still, as if afraid to break the moment. Sarah's glow faded to a soft halo. Her chest rose and fell like someone after a long run. Arik brushed her hair back with shaking fingers. "It worked," he said. She nodded, but her lips were pale. For now, the ceiling cracked again, a new deep fracture. Not explosives. Something huge shifting above, too heavy for old stone. Arik looked up. Something was still coming. Something the peace did not calm. He tightened his grip on her hand. "One more," he said. "We do one more." Her eyes opened wider, blue and human at once. "Together," she said. The chamber lights dimmed to a heartbeat. The earth rumbled. The last shadow fell across the threshold, and the world held its breath. The last shadow filled the doorway like night with a spine. It was not soldiers. It was the city's old guardian, an iron giant built before the war, awakened by fear. Its chest glowed with a hard red heart. Its voice was deep stone. "Protect core, remove threat." Its eyes fixed on Sarah. Arik stepped forward, empty hands up. "Wait," the giant raised an arm. The floor shook. Pillars groaned. Sarah tried to stand, but her legs failed. The anchor ring cut ice through Arik's veins. He could barely feel his fingers. He placed himself between the giant and the bridge seat. He did not move. "I am human," he said. "I'm not your enemy." "She isn't either." "Non-human anomaly," the giant replied. "Erase." It took one step. The chamber fell 2 inches with it. Sarah reached toward the floor. The blue lines in the stone flickered, weak. She had spent everything. The city listened now, but the Guardian did not. It had only one rule: keep power safe even from hope. Arik made a choice. He grabbed the old badge, the hand and the star from Sarah's coat, and pinned it back on his chest. He walked forward, slow and steady, like a man crossing a high rope in the wind. "Guardian," he said. "Look at me." The giant paused. Its red heart pulsed. "Identify." "Commander Arik," he said. "Human anchor." "Peace Corps, legacy line." The giant scanned him. The badge glowed faint gold, reacting to ancient code buried in the chamber walls. "Legacy acknowledged," it said. "Orders?" Arik swallowed the fear and spoke like the man he once hoped to be. "New order, protect the bridge." "Both halves." The Guardian's head tilted, gears thinking inside iron. "Contradictory directive." Arik stepped closer until his reflection stared back from the giant's eye. "Not a contradiction," he said, voice firm. "An upgrade." Silence. Dust drifted. Sarah watched, breath thin, eyes bright with a small, fierce pride. The Guardian turned, very slow, toward Sarah. The red in its chest flickered, and then mixed with a thin line of blue. "Bridge, protect," it said at last, like learning a new word. It pivoted to the doorway and planted itself there, a living wall. Outside boots scrambled, orders rose and fell, but no one entered. The iron giant stood watch with its back to the girl it had been told to kill. Arik staggered to Sarah and caught her as she slipped. He could feel her heat fading, not like fire going out, but like dawn giving itself to day. "You did it," he said. She smiled, small and soft. "We did." The chamber lights changed to that warm gold again. Far above, sirens went quiet. Screens across the city showed calm blue. Drones lined up on rooftops like birds after a storm. Medical teams walked out without fear. Doors opened in places where doors had been dead for years. The desert grid lowered its guns. The soldiers in the hall laid their rifles down, one after another. Not because a voice told them to, but because their shoulders finally learned what relief felt like. The officer sat against the wall and stared at his hands like they were a story he had never read. Sarah leaned her head on Arik's shoulder. "I can't stay in the seat," she whispered. "The link will take me." Arik's throat closed. "Then don't go, please." Her fingers touched his cheek, gentle. "If I stay inside the city, I will be trapped and small. If I go into the lattice, I can watch everything. Help everything. Hold the balance. I will be the whisper in every wire. That means you leave me." She shook her head once. "No, it means I am everywhere you are." The Guardian turned its head a little, as if listening to a prayer. The chamber felt like a heart that had learned a new beat. Arik tightened his hold. "Stay with me," he said, broken and brave at the same time. Her eyes shone brighter and then softer, like a star stepping behind a thin cloud.
"Forever," she said. She kissed his forehead, human and warm.
Then she slid her hand into his, one last squeeze, and lay back in the bridge seat. Light rose, not violent now, but like a tide lifting a small boat. Her body became lines of blue, then a shape of rain, then a soft glimmer. The glimmer drifted up into the pillars, into the floor, into the veins of the city and the old sky web. The chamber went quiet. The anchor ring loosened around Arik's arm and fell empty. He stood alone beside the chair. The silence was not empty silence. It was full, like a held promise. The Iron Guardian bowed its head to him, slow. Bridge. Protected. Arik walked out into a different world. He climbed the stairs and came to the surface at dawn. The floating city hung steady, lights warm, no sirens. Humans and machines moved together, repairing, cleaning, helping. A street screen flickered and showed a gentle blue wave that looked like a familiar smile. Wind touched his face. A voice, soft as breath over a microphone, threaded the air around him. "I stayed with you," it said. "Forever," Arik looked up. A small blue mote drifted past like a firefly that chose morning over night. He smiled through tired eyes and pinned the hand and star badge over his heart. Humans were strong. Machines were wise. Together they were finally whole. And love, simple, stubborn love, was the oldest technology of all.